So, hello everyone. Welcome to Championship Match Day 1 review. I'm host Samuel Wright, joined today by Birmingham City fan Jordan Evans. And Jordan, well, we're back. We're back talking about Championship football, a new season, a new beginning, and some new clubs arriving in the second tier. We're going to get straight on with it anyway, and we're going to start with the Friday night football, a winning start for Vincent Kompany's men. 1-0 to Burnley away at last season playoff finalist Huddersfield Town. And Burnley, it's got to say, looked very fresh and very impressive compared to the Burnley we've been used to seeing in the Premier League.
Yeah, evening, Sam. Pleasure as always having me on. It does feel like it's been absolutely like a year or so since the football's been back on, but absolutely buzzing for it now. Can't wait for it to fully kick into motion. And yeah, I mean, you know, good showing of Burnley Friday. I think Huddersfield looked very poor. Obviously, it can be expected losing their manager, obviously losing the playoff final, which I think they was quite unlucky to do. A couple of dodgy decisions going their way, and they've lost a couple of good players in Harry Truffalo and Lewis O'Brien as well. So I think for Huddersfield, I think they're in for, I mean, I said this last season, I got this completely wrong, but I think they're in for a bit of a stern test this season, especially with looking at Burnley. Burnley looked streets ahead of them, and by half time, it should have been about 3-4, 5-0. Unlucky with a couple of chances, of course. But second half sort of died out a little bit. I think Burnley did take their foot off the gas. I think Huddersfield come into it a little bit more with a couple of substitutions. But I'm really impressed by Vincent Kompany and what he's done in a short space of time. I think that's probably one of the reasons that Huddersfield, one of many reasons that Huddersfield did look so shoddy in the first half, is that they didn't expect them to play the way they did. Passing, moving, they look strong, and you know, Ashley Barnes up top with the outlet if they needed to go long as well, hunting the ball down in packs of walls, and I think they look good. And I think obviously more time that Vincent Kompany's got them together, I think they should be up there, I think, next season, mate. But this season, sorry.
Yeah, looking good, Burnley. And I think Huddersfield would say we're very poor. They're very concerned for Huddersfield, really, after that performance. So we saw what happened to Barnsley after their playoff heroics. And the way Huddersfield looked on Friday, it could be a bit fearful for them this season, being in another relegation battle. And we're going to move on to two teams who everyone's expected to be in a relegation battle this year, Blackpool and Reading. It was 1-0 to Blackpool, and I can't for the life of me understand why Neil Critchley has left to go to be Aston Villa's number 2, because he was doing such a good job there at Blackpool, but that's what's happened anyway. But a winning start for Blackpool and Reading, everyone's favourites to go down this year, and I think Paul Ince will be lucky if he lasts till Christmas, to be honest. They're a club in disarray.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, why would anybody want to go to Aston Villa, mate? Let's be real. But no, I mean, of course, you know, he's done such a great job last season. You know, a couple of impressive results against us, one in particular, beating us 6-1 at their ground, and they stayed up comfortably. I think he could have really built on that this season. They've got a great set of fans down there, Blackpool, and there was never in any kind of danger of going down, and they could have really built on that. But now, obviously, with Critchley going, of course, Blackpool may be, you know, destined to be fighting for sort of relegation. There's a few teams that's going to be in the mix this season. Of course, you mentioned Reading. Reading was very lucky to sort of stay up as well last season. Derby, I think, ran out of gas, you know, with the depleted squad that they had. And of course, it was a monumental task for them to try and stay up with the points deduction. So Reading will count themselves lucky, of course, just about staying up this back in the last season. I think, like you say, Matt, they are going to be everyone's sort of favourites to go down. Paul Ince, you know, yes, he's been a manager before with a few sides with Blackburn Rovers, but he hasn't been in the game for many years, like in terms of a manager. So he's not sort of cut out for that championship experience. So like you rightly say, mate, I think he's not going to be there and see the end of the season out, especially if they start getting hammered week in, week out. But great start for Blackpool. Obviously, considering like the turmoil they've been over the summer losing their manager. So yeah, hopefully they can push on now from that 1-0 clean sheet, first game of the season. It's the best way you can start the season off, isn't it, mate?
Yeah, I think Blackpool are a team who need to make Bloomfield Road a fortress this season. I think that's their only hope of staying up, and it is a tough place to go as well, last season especially. But Reading, though, for me, I think they're really looking in trouble. If nothing changes soon, I think they could go down. quite comfortably as well. But we're going to move on to another 1-0 home win. Probably the most unexpected result this weekend. Cardiff City versus Norwich City, 1-0 to Cardiff. Both sides ending the game with 10 men. I actually watched a bit of this game in Romania, and to be honest, Norwich, they look like they're going a bit stale with this squad. I mean, they've got Cantwell back, of course, which is good. He played a little bit and he did okay. But Cardiff, though, not really anyone's expecting anything from Cardiff this season. Obviously, didn't have a great season last year, inexperienced manager. But fair play to Cardiff, they got the job done and had to hang on a little bit with 10 men. But of course, then Norwich and the man sent off themselves. But yeah, what a start for Cardiff, but not an ideal start for Norwich and Dean Smith.
Yeah, I mean, the king of the yo-yos, Norwich City, they go up and down faster than a yo-yo every single season. And I think a lot of people, just because of the experience that they've had in the Championship, they never really do any business over in the Premiership, buying any players and investing much. And like you say, some of the squad they've had it together quite a while. You look at Timu Pukki, he's a fantastic goal scorer, don't get me wrong, but they're pushing 35. Obviously, Cantwell was on loan at Bournemouth. He's just coming back into the side as well. So although everyone's tips to go straight back up, I think it'll be a different story this time around. They have got a good manager in Dean Smith. We've seen what he's done at the Villa. Quite unlucky to lose his job at the Villa, of course, as well. So I think in the coming months, they'll see, you'll see a few good results coming from them. Of course, obviously it's never nice to finish bottom of the Premier League, and different teams can take to it. To look at Sheffield United last season, they didn't have the greatest of starts back in the Championship, but they come strong at the back end of the season, and that's probably something that's going to happen with Norwich. Cardiff, though, like you say, no one's sort of talking to them about sort of going up or down. So, but they'll find that a fantastic result. Again, another clean sheet. Looked a bit feisty as well. Second half in particular, with all the goings on, obviously the squaring ups between. I think Pukki got pulled back, and they looked like there was a bit of controversy between the two sets of players, which you don't really expect to see on the first game of the season, of course, because everyone's sort of worrying more about getting the fitness back rather than sort of the competitive side. So you don't tend to see that in the first game of the season. So I was a bit surprised. And a surprising result as well, because I think a lot of people, especially on many football accumulators, would have had Norwich on their bets. So we'll see what they can do going forward, mate.
Yeah, I think it's concerning for Norwich because it's not like they've lost to a promotion rival. If they lost to someone like, I don't know, maybe a Sheffield United or a Watford, you've gone, oh, fair enough, that can happen. But to lose to Cardiff, a team with not much expectations, quite a concerning result in my opinion. But Cardiff, though, did look good, and maybe a surprise this season from Steve Morrison's men. They might even mount more of a challenge than what people expect. And we're going to move on to another club who are associated with Yo-Yo, and now Rotherham, a 1-1 home draw against Swansea City. Swansea, obviously, last season, bit of a drop-off to the year before when they got to the playoff final, but can definitely see what Russell Martin's trying to do there, really. And, 1-1 draw away from home, not a bad start. But again, for Rotherham, I mentioned Blackpool making their home ground a fortress. I think Rotherham have got to make the New York Stadium a fortress this season if they're going to stay up. And not a bad start, really, a 1-1 home draw against Swansea.
No, definitely. I think that you're right in saying, of course, it's a good little stadium. I've been there a couple of times down Rotherham's end, and it's a small, compact stadium, bit like Luton, bit like Blackpool as well. And they've got a good set of fans down there. They're very passionate about the football down that way, obviously around Rotherham and Sheffield. So they'll be pleased to be back in the Championship. I think looking back the season before, it was between sort of ourselves and Rotherham and Charlton, and Rotherham just sort of, they had them games in hand, and I think they can either go against you or for you. And I think in such a short space of time, it sort of come on top in the end. So it was quite unlucky to go down. I think they was playing some good stuff towards the back end of the season. But of course, going straight back up, that's all you can ask for in your team. And obviously, Swansea, Russell Martin was, I think, definitely, there was Swansea one week could look like Barcelona, and then the next week they could look shot to pieces. I think they didn't find that consistency, and towards the back end of the season, especially with Russell Martin a bit more behind the team, obviously being in charge a bit longer, he got that style of play what we're used to seeing Swansea play. Of course, losing Steve Cooper, you've only got to look at Forest for what he's done with them. They've lost one of the best young managers in the country. So I think Russell Martin did have his work quite a little bit. He needed to steady the ship, but they need to continue that form now going into this season, and obviously that style of play. So yeah, I think we'll see it. We'll see a better Swansea this season, and I think Rotherham, like you said, they're a bit a bit of a yo-yo club, but they have had a lot of experience in the Championship, so they'll know a bit more what it's going to be like this year. And it's so even across the teams. I don't think we can write them off anytime soon.
No, I agree. I think Rotherham, though, this season, I do think it might well be a last chance for Paul Warne, though, in terms of, so many promotions, but also a lot of relegations. And Rotherham kind of limped over the line last season, really. And I think MK Dons ended the season really well. So I think they were quite fortunate to come up automatically, but they got the job done in the end. And it's against a big season for them this season. But a lot of people are actually tipping them to stay up, surprisingly. But not a bad start. And I think Swansea this season, it's going to be a big season for Russell Martin, especially. I think he needs to get them up there this season. I think last season he was forgiven because it's a new manager. But this season, though, it's going to be an opportunity for him to get Swansea back in them playoff places or even automatics. Two new managers next, Blackburn Rovers versus QPR. The game was settled with a fantastic goal by Lewis Travis. But, obviously, Yondal Thomason, we know him, of course, Champions League winner with AC Milan. And Michael Beale, someone who swapped places with Neil Critchley. Obviously, QPR got quite a lot of hype going into this season, but they ended last season so terribly under Mark Warburton, fell off a cliff, really. But good start there for Blackburn.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to be the trend at the moment. I think Warburton's gone and joined backroom staff of David Moyes in West Ham as well. And it seems to be a bit of the trend that the managers are going to get. Maybe they're going to get a bit more experience. I'm not too sure. But obviously, two new managers. Of course, the one thing that you don't want to do is lose your first game. But of course, QPR, like you say, Sam, I think last season, going into the season, there was definitely mine. There was many people's tips to go up next season. Such a strong team, and they had a great pre-season, great end to the season before, but they literally just fell off. From what we was used to seeing in the sort of beginning of the season, they was getting a lot of last-minute winners, and they looked destined to hit that sort of top 6 position. But like you say, it's just fell off for them. A bit like Blackburn as well. Blackburn was hovering, virtually 90% of the season around the playoffs, and under Tony Mowbray, they sort of fell off a little bit. And I think again, there was only sort of one. I think there was one away win in the whole of the Championship, in the whole of the weekend. So, getting the fans back in the home ends, of course, packing it out on the first game of the season will have helped the likes of Blackburn and clubs like that as well. So, I think Blackburn did quite punch above their weight a little bit last season in terms of where they was for most of it, as we've seen them tailing off. So I think, again, sort of a mid-table finish for them. And QPR, if they do book their ideas up a little bit, can sort of maybe go to the top 6. We'll see what happens with them, mate.
Yeah, it's a weird one with QPR. It's pretty much ended last season the complete opposite to the year before. The year before, they were on a roll under Mark Warburton. I remember they brought Austin back in. They're winning games for fun, and you're thinking, they're going this season. They were up there, and then they just lost it. But I do think Beale's an encouraging appointment. And Yondal Thomason at Blackburn, I mean, it's good for Blackburn. They've finally moved on from the steadiness of Mowbray, I think. I think they needed a change, ready to go to that next level. Good start to the season, but again, Blackburn, I mainly expect to be in mid-table. You never know. Thomason might be a bit of a gem and might get them up there. You just never know. Going to move on to your team next, Jordan. Birmingham City, a 0-0 draw away at Luton Town. It was 5-0 last season to Birmingham in that fixture, but don't think many Birmingham fans were expecting that this time round. Obviously, new manager in the dugout as well. Luton, not many people expecting them to repeat last season's heroics, even Luton fans probably. But, they've got to try and make the most of it. And what they were good at last season was making Kenilworth Road a very tough place to go. I think they'll be disappointed with this result, though, Luton. I think Birmingham were definitely happy with the draw.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a turbulent summer on and off the pitch for us. In particular, of course, Bowyer going, then John Eustace coming in the door. But I've been really impressed with what I've seen of him, especially over pre-season. I think he knows exactly what he wants. He ain't coming with unrealistic expectations. There's a lot of work to be done at us, but I'm absolutely over the moon with the 0-0. Few of the fans that have expected a bit too much of us was coming away from it a little bit disappointed, because we did beat them 5-0 at home. But you've got to remember, they've just come out of the playoffs, and we just survived under the relegation battle again for the 7th year in a row or something like that. And you have to be realistic sometimes. And Kenilworth Road, although last season we made it look easy, it is a very tough place to go. And even at the St Andrews game, when we played them at our game, when we beat them 3-0 there, they still look a great team. And to be fair, I still come away from that game thinking, how did we win that by such a comfortable margin? But I think Nathan Jones can't stand the sight of Birmingham City. I think he said it a few times, because he come away from that, ruined sort of missed chances and stuff. But I'm over the moon with, you know, if you can't win your first game, definitely don't lose it. I think, especially when it's away from home, and it's something to build on. It was a great, solid defensive display from us. Couple of chances we could have nicked it, even got the 3 points on the way back to St Andrews. But I think, yeah, I mean, Luton, of course, everybody knows the story with them. There was a great side last season, and nobody expected them to finish in that top six. And there was, you know, very sort of unlucky to not potentially get a shot at the final. But yeah, I think for them it'll be another bonus if they can get in the top 10. But realistically, looking at sort of their squad compared to others, you know, you probably look at sort of mid-table for them, and for us again, I think it's about sort of trying to hit that mid-table position. But yeah, 0-0, Sam, I'm over the moon with that. Something to build on for the next few weeks for us.
Yeah, John, so I don't feel like 2 minutes ago we were talking about Asa Karanka being in charge at Birmingham and the turbulence you were going through when we first started talking on these shows. But obviously Lee Bowyer, it looked like was going to be the man to take the club forward. Didn't work out. Eustace coming in. A lot of people have had Birmingham to go down this year, I think more than I've ever seen. But it's not a bad start, but we don't know. Luton are a very unknown team this season. They've kept the manager. They've got a lot of the players, though, still. I think Luton will be fine, but I don't think they'll get the playoffs again. I think many people would agree. But as for Birmingham, I mean, they've got a very good opening day record, Birmingham, as we know, the last few years. Them 2 wins against Brentford, Sheffield United last year. But, you know, not a bad result for Birmingham. Interested to see how they do going forward, that's for sure. But going to move on next to two of the cities, Hull and Bristol. It was a 2-1 win for Hull, a last-minute goal by Seri, the new signing Seri, of course, a player who's linked with all the big clubs a few years ago. He's with Hull in the Championship now. It's a deflected goal, but he helps them get the win. And speak about Paul Ince maybe not lasting the season. I can't believe Nigel Pearson's still at Bristol City, to be honest. He's been there 18 months now, and it's just a struggle, really, to see where this Bristol City team are going. But a good result for Hull, but at least for Bristol City, Andy Byman continuing last season as he left, picking up this form where he left off last season.
Yeah, definitely. I couldn't agree more with you. I think Nigel Pearson still being there, when you consider, like, you know, he hasn't got like the most amazing CV, but like in terms of what he did for Leicester, Watford, even he was very unlucky to get sacked a couple of games before they eventually got relegated. And I don't know what the vision is, but at the Bristol City, they really baffle me because, you know, they are a strong team and they've got a great stadium. They're a big city, of course, as well. And, you know, we know they've got aspirations to get in the Premier League, but their owners don't seem to want to do that and splash the cash and strengthening areas. They've had some great players over the years. I mean, you know, a couple of years ago, they had sort of the likes of Tammy Abraham up top on loan from Chelsea, banging in sort of 22, 23 goals. And this is the thing, is when are they going to take that step now to push on? And I think, look, clubs like Bristol City and, you know, clubs that have been in the Championship for many, many years now, they've got to sort of make that next step up. And I know it's easier said than done, but this Championship season is probably the most even I've seen in many, many years. So look, you've only got to take sort of inspiration from Barnsley the season before, Luton last season as well, to know that if you do string a solid squad together and get the performances, you can get in that top six. But I just think, yeah, like you say, Sam, I can't see him sort of lasting the season again. It doesn't look like they've invested too much again into the squad. I know, of course, it is difficult in the Championship because of the Premier League clubs coming down in the parachute payments, but it's a weird one with Bristol, but we'll have to see how it pans out. I do rate Nigel Pearson highly, and I can't see him, you know, staying around to finish mid-table or just below mid-table again. And of course, Hull, obviously impressive for them last season, just coming off the back of a promotion from League One, and they stayed up comfortably. 2-1 win, you know, at the end of the day, they can't moan at that, of course. It's again something for them to build on. I think there was 1-0 down as well, and obviously getting a last-minute goal, it's just going to instill more confidence into that team. And obviously going forward into the season, hopefully they can build on what they did and finish a little bit higher in the league. And again, it's another club that you can potentially look at being an outsider for finishing in sort of that top 10, top 6 position if they do keep that consistency up and keep the same sort of performances as last season, mate, for sure.
Yeah, good win for Hull, no doubt about that. I mean, started last season very well. Remember their 4-1 win at Preston on the opening day last year. But a 2-1 win, no good result. And I mean, again, Bristol City, as you say, interesting what direction they go in. But as for Hull, I think they'll want to finish a little bit higher than last season and keep building on that League One promotion a couple of years ago. But next up, we're going to move on to one of the many Northwest derbies we're going to see this season, Wigan and Preston. Another 0-0 draw. And Preston are a team coming into this season with a lot of expectation, got a good manager in Ryan Lowe, of course, and Wigan, obviously League One champions last season, but Wigan have been promoted a lot of times before from League One. So it's not really anything new for them. They've got a job on their hands to try and stay up. And again, a bit like Rotherham, they kind of limped over the line last season as well. But a 0-0 draw on the opening day, not a bad result for either team, really, but nothing too inspiring either.
Yeah, for sure. And a bit like, obviously, the other 0-0 our one, Hull and, Luton and Blues, I think, if you're not going to win the game, if you're not going to win your first game of the season, don't lose it. And the first games of the seasons are always a little bit of a weird factor because, you know, you one thing you want to do is you want to get into that competitive stage, but you also want the fitness in your legs. And a lot of players would have tired a little bit. And, you know, coming away from home for Preston, that's a great result. And Wigan just coming up, that's a great result for them. So I think both teams will be, you know, fairly happy with their sort of performance and just coming out of the game with a point each. So I think both of them will. I do feel a little bit, fear a little bit for Preston. Again, another team that sort of haven't, a bit like Bristol City, they don't want to invest in certain areas. I think a few pundits as well have tipped them to go and struggle this season alongside sort of ourselves and Reading and other clubs. So I think they're gonna have a tough job on their hands this season, Preston, and you know they have been in the Championship for many years now. So I do fear for them a little bit this season. Wigan, on the other hand, I think unlucky the season they went down, obviously with the points deduction. Hopefully that this is looked into now because it is happening to far too many of the lesser clubs, you know, and it's unfair for them. But at least they've dusted themselves off and gone back and gone again this season. But yeah, Matt, I think Wigan again, they'll be sort of looking to just stay in the division this season and push on for next season. I think for sure.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I think Preston actually have been a bit of a mixed bag. And so they've got the manager, but maybe the investment's not really there at Preston. That's been a problem for a few years. But obviously, again, a 0-0 draw doesn't really do too many teams any favours, but at least it's a point on the board for both teams. And now to arguably the most impressive performance of the weekend, Millwall 2, Stoke City 0. Now, pressure will start mounting on Michael O'Neill. He's been there a few years now, obviously. Had a good reputation at Northern Ireland, did a very good job there. He came in and steadied the ship at Stoke, but it's at the point now where that ship's just not moving anywhere. I think, you know, never finished in the top half since relegation in 2018. It's concerning for Stoke, but Millwall, many people, including myself, they're my outside bet for the playoff this season. Millwall have got a strong system there, good manager who suits the club. They've recruited well. Yeah, Millwall looking very good. And Leeds United loanee Charlie Cresswell grabbing the headlines, 2 goals and a clean sheet.
Yeah, exactly that. And I think, you know, just building on Millwall, obviously, like I've said before, we've had Gary Rowett at the Blues, and I know exactly what he's capable of. Of course, he was at Stoke as well for a little while, but Gary Rowett's got a certain style, and Millwall fit it to a T. He likes big, strong teams. You know, hitting the target man and building from there and building around the front players. They're never going to be the most prettiest on the eye, Millwall, but at the end of the day, you've got to do what you got to do to win football games. And I think they are, like you say, Sam, they are going to be an outsider for the top 6 next season. I think, you know, last season couldn't probably count themselves unlucky. It was just a few draws here and there at home where I think they've obviously dropped points, but I think they'll be up there for the top 6. The Den's a horrible place to go to as well, and not many clubs do come away from there with all 3 points. But I think Gary Rowett, and he's got Paul Robinson in his backroom staff, former Blues player as well. And I think for Millwall, I think it's about them now taking that step, and they've got nothing to lose. I don't think they're in any danger of going down in the Championship, but they've got to now really push on. They'll take a lot of experience from last season and where they've gone wrong and where they've dropped points, and they've recruited well. I think that they've just got to keep that word consistency, and I think they could really, in the most open game, the Championship this season, I think they really could go up. Well, certainly finishing top 6. But yeah, just in terms of, like you say, something with Stoke now, obviously been out of the Premiership for a few years. There was, you know, established club for many years in there. And Michael O'Neill, his days will be numbered. We've seen it with Nathan Jones, Gary Rowett. Stoke ain't afraid to get rid of a manager. And, that club of the size of Stoke will be looking to get back into that Premiership as soon as possible. So I think he definitely needs to keep one eye over his shoulder in terms of where he's going to be in the league come December. It's all about that sort of first 10 to 15 games in the Championship, and we've still got to see what him and his Stoke side are capable of, mate. But yeah, fantastic win for Millwall, and can see them having a good season.
Yeah, so we're on to the 5:30 game on Saturday now. Middlesbrough versus West Bromwich Albion, two managers who, of course, are no stranger to getting clubs out of this division. Middlesbrough 1, West Brom 1, it ended. Not a bad game, really. Two strong teams look like going at it. Two teams many people expect to be up there. This is Chris Wilder, his first full season in charge of Middlesbrough. Expects they're going to be very strong this season. And West Brom, yeah, Steve Bruce didn't make an impact last season. He kind of struggled a little bit to get this West Brom team on track. But, he's proved at Aston Villa, especially when he steadied the ship there, and, of course, his promotions previously. He's a good manager at this level, Steve Bruce, and I think West Brom could also be very strong this season. So 1-1 draw, I think this is a fair result and kind of a predictable one. I think most people would have called the draw here.
Yeah, definitely. And both teams will be chuffed with the draw as well, especially the first game of the season. I think Middlesbrough, Chris Wilder's going to, again, we've seen him last season. Very come down to the last game of the season for them, finishing outside that top six. So he's a passionate manager, Chris Wilder, and I love Chris Wilder. I really wish the Blues went in for him when we had the chance to. I think he proved himself with Sheffield, getting him back-to-back promotions, and he's a fantastic manager, and he suits that Middlesbrough to a T. Obviously, they do like their English managers. They like the likes of Neil Warnock. They've had Tony Pulis in their time, so they do. Steve McLaren, they do tend to do well under English managers, and I think Middlesbrough, let's be real, they are a big club, especially in the Championship, up that north end of England, and I think they'll be looking to get back. Not just top six, but top two this season. I think they really can push on from what they did last season. Very unlucky. Chris Wilder coming in at the time that he did, threw together a few fantastic performances, had a little good FA Cup run as well, and I think they'll be a very strong outfit this season. In relation to Steve Bruce, I know all about him. Of course, he did double promotions with us. Obviously, he's had numerous promotions with the likes of Wigan. Obviously, he's been around the game for many years, and I think another manager that I probably would have, even though he's been at the Villa, I would have had back Steve Bruce, because he knows what it's about. He knows what getting out of that division's all about, and I think the demands that West Brom fans have, again, because they've been in the Premiership for many years, an established Premier League team, they'll be looking to bounce back up now as soon as they possibly can. They did have a very disappointing season by their standards last season. The Ishmael management didn't really work out as we thought it would, judging to what he did in Barnsley. So it's just all about now Brucey going forward and see what he can do. But I think two teams now that are going to be in the top six, definitely.
Yeah, just quickly going to run for the last two games. We are running out of time slightly, but Sunderland are back in the second tier. A 1-1 draw at home to Coventry. A moment of brilliance by Coventry for the equaliser. Giricas, fantastic goal from him. But Sunderland, though, great atmosphere, because they're a big club, and of course being back in the Championship's good for them, and of course good for the division as well. Fantastic attendance. In terms of the game itself, though, Sunderland will be very disappointed if they didn't pick up 3 points here. Coventry, for me, were far from their best. A big fan of Mark Robbins, though, and I think Coventry will have another strong season, but it's a bit of a disappointing result for Sunderland when you consider how much they were on top. But in the end, though, what a goal from Giricas, and I think he's going to have another fine season. And yeah, a point on the board for both teams.
He found the net a few times last season, I remember, and yeah, what a goal it was. To be fair, it was a fantastic goal, and they needed something like that to bring them back out of, bring a point away from the Stadium of Light, because packed Stadium of Light, championships, you don't get many championship attendances over sort of 35, 40k, and they're gonna pack that stadium out. They did in League One some games, so they're gonna pack that. They're a passionate bunch. You've only got to watch sort of their documentaries on Netflix just to see how much of a passionate bunch they are, and they're going to demand a lot. I think they've got a great manager, though, in Alex O'Neill. I think he knows exactly what the Championship's about. He's gotten promoted. They've had many years in the League One now, but they're a big club, and I think they're not going to be, when you get clubs that get promoted from championships to the Premiership or League One to the Championship. They always want to solidify their position in the league. And I don't think Sunderland have got any sort of worries in that respect. They'll be looking to sort of aim top half of the table, sort of top 12. A bit like Coventry as well, because Mark Robins, again, he's a fantastic manager. He brings the best out of that bunch in Coventry, and they've got them playing some nice football. And although they didn't play the greatest on Sunday, they will play fantastic, obviously, in the Rico. And the coming months, they'll be more than safe, and maybe try and have another crack at that top 6, because there was flirting with it again the start of last season. But I think their squad just wasn't as deep as the others that have finished there. So yeah, I think two great managers. Obviously, Sunderland, like you say, Sam, they'll be disappointed with the 1-1. But yeah, definitely, I think I can see both teams being absolutely fine, and maybe it's dark horses for the top 6. I'm not too sure. You can't rule anybody out, can you?
Yeah, no, I agree. Two very good managers. I certainly agree with that, Jordan. I think, obviously, Alex Neil, let's say, good manager, got Sunderland out of League One, did very well to do that with the position they were in as well. And obviously, as well, Mark Robins, fantastic manager at Coventry as well. I think both teams will be very steady this season. But again, on the day, I think the chance Sunderland had, they'll be a bit disappointing to only get a draw. But going to move on to the final game of the weekend now, Watford versus Sheffield United. Two teams, again, tipped to do well. 1-0 win for Watford. João Pedro with the winning goal, a good winning goal as well, even though Sheffield United's midfield did make a bit of a mess of it. But a really good win, really. And again, if Watford can keep the likes of Sarr, Dennis and Pedro at the club and fit, that attack's brilliant. I mean, for the Championship, that attack's going to get plenty of goals, and Watford in a good position. The only thing I do question, obviously, someone who worked in League Two football last season, I do like Rob Edwards. He did a very good job at Forest Green, but I think this job might have just come a bit too soon for him, but we'll see if I'm proved wrong there. But yeah, good win for Watford, good start to the season. As for Sheffield United, weren't quite at their best yesterday.
No, definitely not. And I think it was quite surprising, of course, because Paul Heckingham got him playing some good football at the back end of last season. Obviously, it was disappointing. You're always going to be disappointed in going out in the playoffs. But I think, with a full season of him in charge, I think they'll be back up there, right at the top of the sort of top 6 again. But there wasn't the usual self yesterday. It was very scrappy in the first half from them, and a lot of yellow cards. And mind you, the Championship refs give yellow cards for anything, but there was a lot of yellow cards in the first half. Obviously, Watford, again, a bit like Norwich, are sort of everybody's tips to go straight back up in that top 2 position. So we'll have to see how they fare. But yeah, it's an interesting one in terms of the manager, because there was a few Championship sides looking at him, and Birmingham City being one of them. And he did do a fantastic job at Forest Green, got him playing some fantastic attacking football. And if he can transition that into Watford, and he's, of course, he's done a fantastic start winning yesterday. If you can transition that into Watford, there will be a great force. And one thing with Watford is they've got no stability in the management, and maybe they're looking at a different philosophy this time in terms of investing in a manager that they can keep sort of for 3, 4, 5 years. So let's see where they fall. But like you say, with the quality they've got in the squad, mate, Sarr, Dennis, Kasebo at the back, they've got some fantastic quality in that squad, and they are gonna for sure be up the top end. And Sheffield United, like I say, pick up the form they did last season. I can't see any reason. Two teams I definitely think will be in and around the top 6 areas, and top 2 potentially with Watford.
Yeah, I agree. I think Watford, a very strong start for them. And again, interesting if Edwards can last a while at the club, but he's off to a good start. Sheffield United, though, I think they'll be fine. I think they'll definitely be up there, but a good start, though, for Watford on the evening. And, well, John, last question I'm going to ask you, and you'll be knowing this from a Championship podcast, is your Championship player and team of the week, please.
Players just going to be Cresswell, because I can't really think of many other than Gary Costa's goal for Coventry. I can't really think of many other outstanding performances. It's more of team performances. So I'm going to give it Cresswell because he got 2 goals. Bit of a safe hunt to that answer. But the team of the week, I'm going to give to Burnley, just because of the surprise factor. I think I didn't expect, and I think a lot of people didn't expect them to be as pleasing in the eye, because we Burnley have got a track record of lumping it to the big man, hoping for the best around it, which is Sean Dyche's tactics, and he had to do that, to bring the best out of the players that he had. But I think with Vincent Kompany in charge now, younger, fresher manager, it's just come out of the job from Anderlecht. It's his second job as a manager. He's only just retired like a couple of years ago, so he's going to be really hungry to get this team playing well. And you could see him kicking every single ball, you know, barking orders out from the touchline and everything. But the football they was playing, and you know, he's not been in the job a great deal of time. They're only going to get better. And of course, Huddersfield was probably one of their worst performances I've seen them play for a while. But I just think that they couldn't get near him. Burnley looked stronger, fitter, faster, you know, pressing. I just think that, for that reason, Sam, I've got to give it Burnley. To win away as well from home is fantastic. Keep a clean sheet, but the performance from them, I think, was a talking point of the weekend, and I think there'll be a handful for most teams next season.
Yeah, actually, the only away side to win this weekend as well, which is a bit of a shock, really. But I think the Championship's returned not quite with a bang. I think it was a good weekend, but there wasn't really many great games, a lot of low-scoring games, a lot of people maybe working their way back to full fitness. But, I mean, obviously, I'll throw in my player and team of the week. Team of the week's definitely Millwall, and I'd say player of the week, I probably would go for Girica just for that goal, because it was a very good goal. But then again, the Blackburn Rovers goal was probably better. So, you know, if I'm going to say that, then the Blackburn goal was just as good. But yeah, obviously the new season's returned. And for you, Jordan, I think you'll be hoping Huddersfield play just as badly on this Friday night when they come to your place. But no, well, in the end, I think though, yeah, looking forward to Championship being back, and let's hope it's a very entertaining season again. But thank you very much anyway for coming on, Jordan. Been a pleasure as always, and I'll speak to you soon.
Yeah, take care, Sam. Thank you very much, mate.